Hello, it's me, Heather, and welcome back to Happening Horror. I know it's been a hot minute since I've been here, but I got a cool movie that I want to cover that is now a new favorite of mine, The Babadook. So let's get started. I first watched this film back in 2014 when it came out. I was very young and I didn't really understand the psychology behind the film, but now that I'm 27 years old, I have grown, more mature, and have a better understanding of the psychological aspects of this film. I am so excited to talk about it. And Jennifer West and Jed Kurzel, the director and the composer for this film, were a great team. And I want to talk about why they made such a great team and why this movie is now one of my new favorites. So in the beginning of the film, we learned that Essie Davis's character has lost her husband while en route to the hospital while giving birth to her son, Samuel. And Essie's character has never fully really processed the thought that her husband is gone. She is a struggling single parent trying to help her son cope with the fact that he does not have a father, and trying very clearly not to have resentment and place blame on him for his father's accidental death. And we really see the transference of her struggle onto her son. He starts acting out in school. He starts struggling in social relationships with people. And it's so well represented. The depression, the trauma, resentment, and transference between the two characters is very well done. And I was very pleased with that, which is one of the reasons it has become one of my new favorites, because a psychological horror is very hard to pull off. And let's talk about a few things more that I really loved. One of my favorite things about the film is the subtle scares in it. It's not a straight in your face, here's the creature kind of situation. And that's why it's such a great psychological horror. Because when she first reads the book to her son and things start to happen, she thinks nothing of it. But the book starts showing up in different places, and her son keeps mentioning the Babadook. And she's becoming so irritated with him that she is becoming angry and even more resentful towards her son, because he is now taking the Babadook after the story and pushing it onto other people that we see. At her sister's party for her daughter, we do see her son Samuel push his cousin out of a treehouse because she said a very rude comment about him, about his father's death and how it was his fault. And he pushes her from the treehouse. What? But come to find out that he was told to do it. It just wasn't a, I'm going to do this on the whim kind of situation. And his mother is furious with him, and his aunt is also furious with him as well. Rightfully so. Her daughters got pushed out of the treehouse at her birthday party. But the separation from the sister and from our lead character is very obvious. Her sister just wants her to get over her husband's death and deal with it and move on, which I think is very unfair for her sister to try and say when she has a full life and a full family. So her sister doesn't take very kindly to this at the party, and her son Sam do promptly leave. And that's where the problems begin to start even more, excuse me. And let's touch base on that next. So for those of you who have watched my previous videos, you know that a big thing to me is the music of the film. And I want to talk about that before I talk about the rest of the movie. We do see that the movie starts off kind of slow, very, very minimal background music. It's very more of an accent than an actual score. And I think the composer, Jed Kurzel, did a great job in doing that, because I feel that if the soundtrack was too heavy for this film, it very much would have killed the story. Would have made scenes that were already directed to be dramatic too much, which just sound like something a crazy person would say. But when it comes to score, sometimes it's simpler to the better. I'm not going in here looking for a Star Wars score. I'm coming in here looking for a score that's going to make me uncomfortable. It's going to make me tense. It's going to make me worried for the characters. and it's just going to keep me in a little balled up thing of anxiety. I don't even have a word for it, but it's going to keep me balled up with anxiety, and that's what I want. And I definitely got that from this film, with the low undertones, heartbeats, occasional little string screeches. All of it was very well done. I very much recommend looking into this composer's work as well. He did films like Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender, and he also was one of the composers for Alien Covenant, which is also another great film. I definitely check it out. So thank you, Jed, for producing a wonderful score for this wonderful psychological thriller. Since we covered the topic of the music by Jed Kurzel, I want to talk about the visual atmosphere of the film. If you watch the film, or you have watched the film, you're going to notice very cool tones throughout with very harsh blacks and very harsh shadows. And for me, the harsh shadows and the harsh blacks really added even more to the suspense when you're watching the film. And one of my favorite scenes in the film, this is a spoiler if you have not watched it, so I'm sorry, is when the mother is sitting just completely pitch black in the living room with only the TV on while her son Sam is asleep. And she's just sitting there, just ridden with depression, stress, anxiety, just filled with hatred. And those cool tones, the silence of the atmosphere, the harsh blacks and the shadows, just made that moment so tense. And even in the very well-lit outdoor scenes, you're still catching those harsh blacks and the shadows. And I think this was done just to put us even more on edge, because we know the Babadook can take a shape of anybody it wants to. It doesn't matter. So kudos to Jennifer and the people who did the development on that as well, because it really added to the film. So thank you for that. Talking about something on a more serious note about this film, we are introduced to the character while she is giving birth to Sam in a very serious accident that ends up killing her husband. And a very devastating thing to witness, and it's very, very sad and very terrifying for the mother as well. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the Babadook was actually a very large representation of the depression and terror that is eating away at the mother. Hence why the representation of the Babadook could be absolutely anyone or anything. Depression and terror and PTSD are so well represented in this film that if you are a psychology major or someone who enjoys the mind, or you're looking for some type of representation for your disorder, it's definitely a great film to watch. And definitely for people who need more help understanding what depression can look like to someone, this film also does a great role of that. But also be cautious when you're watching this if you do have a severe depressive disorder or any type of problems with terror or trauma. Definitely just keep a watch out for yourself to make sure that you don't get too scared during the film, because this film is very tense and the disorders are really very well represented. But I also want you to enjoy the film because it's also very well done. But just keep a word of caution from me, your girl Heather. One of the things that's also great about this film is it really shows the provision of innocence through Sam. Sam is only 6 years old. He's very innocent to the world, and he doesn't really understand what is happening to his mom and how she is struggling so much by being a single parent and trying to provide for him as much as she possibly can. So the innocence that we are getting from Sam only adds to the scary tone of the film. When we see his mother just become more and more depressed, more terrifying, more trauma-ridden, and just more depressed, it makes us worried for Sam because of his innocence. She is trying to protect him, but she is also scaring him in the process. And towards the end of the film, we really see Sam's innocence kind of start to fall, because he has to grow throughout this film, which in a mature aspect as much as he can for being 6 years old, in order to save his mom from her depression and just from everything she's going through. So Noah Wiseman did a great job at this, being only 6 years old. Wonderful. Wonderful representation of innocence through a child. And kudos to little Noah for being so young and doing such a phenomenal job in this film. If you've already seen this film, you know that there are a lot of sequences when Essie Davis's character is yelling at Sam. And they can get pretty graphic. They can get pretty scary, especially for someone who has gone through trauma like that before. But both the actress and the director, Jennifer, wanted to make sure that they did not scar young 6-year-old Noah at the time of filming this. So when you see any of the scenes where Essie Davis is on her knees and she is yelling at or hitting or doing anything to Sam, that was actually an adult stand-in. They did not want Noah really involved in any of the very heavy scenes that could possibly scar him throughout his childhood, even though this is a film. Stuff in a film can be very realistic for a child because they're still growing. They don't understand always that this person is not mad at me. This is not how this person feels about me. But I would like to thank them for doing that, because I know at 6 years old, I would not want someone standing there yelling and hitting me, even in a film, because that would be terrifying. Well, thank you yet again for joining me on my channel, and I'm so glad to be back, and I promise I won't be gone this long again, and videos are going to go up every week yet again, just like they were. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the movie X, directed by Ty West, that just came out this year. I'm super excited to watch it, and I'm super excited to come back here and talk to you guys about it. So on that note, I want you all to stay safe and stay spooky.